In 1974, the first tabletop role-playing game was created. Since then, people from all around have gathered to play. Join me as we talk with RPG enthusiasts while they share their best, worst, and favorite moments. This is You Had to Be There.
Hey everyone, welcome to You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. Oh man, if you're watching this live, it has been a while. If you're wondering where I've been doing a lot of on-the-road comedy stuff. I kind of mentioned that I do that also. You're also probably going like, wow, is Tom going live at 9 a.m. on a Sunday? You bet your ass I am, because I have another great guest from, as a terrible thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, across the pond, I believe is the phrase, because I'm lame like that. My guest today is, I believe, a very long time DM. She is part of the Roll Plenty podcast, and she is also a incredible map maker. Welcome, Emma Collis. I said that right, right? Collis?
Yes, you did.
Perfect.
You did.
Okay.
Collis.
Yeah, I feel like I have to, like, put a little. It's an interesting pronunciation. Like, is that more of a, like, is pretty particular to like Britain pronunciation?
I
the way?
assume so. I haven't really met any other Collises outside of my family. There's a lot of Collins in England.
Okay.
But yeah, don't know why we don't have the N.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Well, this isn't me trying to be trendy or anything. It's early in the morning. I got my nice cup of tea here. Rocking an Earl Grey today. I am not your typical American. I'm with the Brits. I'm like, we don't know a good beverage. I'm all about it.
I don't even drink tea, so...
Really?
And I'm doing this on the Jubilee weekend, so I'm really losing points for being English.
What's Jubilee weekend?
At the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. She's been Queen 70 years.
Oh.
You don't know.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, been a big celebration last 4 days.
And you don't even drink tea. Look at that.
I don't.
That's fine. You don't have to.
Hot chocolate.
Must have hot chocolate? Yeah, hot chocolate's great. Awesome. So we have, I did listen, as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, I did listen to the Roll Plenty pod, the 4 episodes that were posted. It was a lot of fun. I was curious, what was the system that was used in that?
We're using Monster of the Week, which is a powered by the Apocalypse system.
Okay, cool. So, is that D6s? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, it's D6s. Cool. So it's 2D6 plus whatever your stat is.
Yeah, it seemed like a D6 version of like Call of Cthulhu, kind of the way it
yeah,
kind of
I haven't
played
played
out.
a huge amount of Call of Cthulhu, but yeah, D6s. So
yeah, but you take like that. I think you had like some sort of sanity, or you had luck. Luck is another thing.
We have luck.
Yes. Yeah, that's like Call of Cthulhu kind of ability as well. But it was really interesting. I've never like listened to that system before. Is that something? Do you usually play like more?
I've played a bit of Monster of the Week before. I mostly play 5th edition D&D.
Okay.
Yeah, I've played in one Monster of the Week campaign before this one, which was a lot of fun. My best friend, my flatmate Mika, ran it for us. That was a lot of fun. I got very into solving the mysteries in that one. Yeah, and I guess we'll see what happens with Cape Brick Cassettes when we come back.
Yeah, I know you're on a little bit of a hiatus right now, which is fine.
Yeah,
but, keep putting it out there, and once you're back up...
We're still recording, so
that's great.
The content's there. It's just, it needs all to be edited.
Yeah, editing is not my favorite thing to... Like, we did a Call of Cthulhu one-shot back in October, and it's almost done, y'all. It's almost done. I'm busy. I've been away. I've been in a different state every weekend this past month, so I'm, like, lucky that
intense.
I have. Yeah, I know it's been rough. Not rough in the bad sense, but just like very busy. So, but that's very cool. So you do mostly 5th edition. When did you start playing like tabletop role playing games and all that stuff?
Tabletop ones specifically, I started playing when I went to uni. So that's, oh God.
I believe that's college for the Americans, for my American friends.
Like 6 years ago now is when I first playing. 6, 7 years.
Okay, cool. I feel like it's a lot of, man, if my college experience or university experience was playing Dungeons and Dragons, I would have had a way better college experience. I hated my college.
It was great.
Yeah.
Sign up because we had a D&D society there.
Oh, really?
So went to that in Freshers Week. So I did, they had a one-shot evening to start with.
Yeah.
Which is when I played 5th edition for the first time. And I played a barbarian named Bob. Because It was on my character sheet. And the DM was like, you can call it whatever you want. And I was like, it says Bob. I'm being Bob.
Bob.
And I blundered my way through that dungeon really well.
That's funny you say it, because one of my questions was, because in the podcast you played like this motherly, what was her name?
Ruth.
Mother Ruth, yes. And you played like this motherly kind of caretaker almost. So I was going to ask if that's your style, but apparently no, you also will go grip and rip
I've played a lot of very different characters.
Yeah, I like that a lot, me too.
Ruth is not the first mother, but she is the first one that I've played where another player has been playing the child.
Right.
So that's been a really fun dynamic to play with. I haven't got to do it a lot, but I love linked backstories. Like when you can get that going with another player, it's very funny.
I think that's next on my list, like the next full start, brand new campaign kind of thing we do. I really want to connect with the backstory, either have like a brother or sibling or ex-wife, like, I don't know, just something fun to like be able to banter and work with someone on that.
Yeah, it's really good fun. The campaign I'm running at the moment, I started them all off actually before level 1.
Okay,
So I got them to play out their childhood for a few sessions,
right.
which was really interesting experience. I've not done anything like that before. But I just wanted more sort of immersion and attachment than we would have had if I'd just been like, okay, first session, you all know each other, you've grown up together in this tiny village that you have never left, you know everyone here.
Yeah.
And then have to spend the whole first session being like, and here's this person who you know really well. And it wouldn't have had the same like impact or feeling.
Yeah, like, what was your mother's name again? Be like, what do you mean? You knew my mother, you know her name. Yeah, it would just be, it makes sense a lot. I think it's super useful to do that as far as like connecting and getting, because I've started, people just start like, our group, you've been traveling together for a while. I'm like, well, how did we even...
And it's never the same as like when you've actually got some sort of connection. It's why usually with my campaigns, I've started it as they've never met each other before, because I prefer stuff to sort of organically come together over time. But for this one, I really wanted to do a much slower paced campaign. The goal is to do 1 to 20. And when I say slow paced, it's been very slow paced because we're doing milestone leveling as well. And I think we're about 26 sessions in. They're level 2. So, not for everyone.
What are you doing?
Not for everyone. Okay, there's a reason.
Okay,
I told them that it's because I want their subclasses to really mean something.
Okay.
So I basically told them that they can reach level 3 when all of them have found a mentor for their subclass. Basically, that's the milestone leveling. Okay. And so they knew that like before I started the campaign that was going to be the case. So they signed up for this.
Okay.
But they keep going off on side quests. So
so they haven't
and
even
detouring
done
and derailing stuff. So
now, after they get that mentor, is it going to get a little faster with the leveling, or are you still going to be okay? Because I was going to say, you realize you're going to be playing this campaign until you're like 80 years old, right?
I mean, that works for me. I plan to be playing D&D until I die. So.
Oh yeah, but I meant like the same campaign.
Role-playing games.
Yeah, I meant like the same campaign.
Well, I'm not expecting it's going to be with multiple arcs, really. So it'll be like mostly the tiers of play, but probably a bit looser with it. So
now, is this a homebrew world, like a homebrew module and everything? Nice.
Homebrew,
everything.
I do everything that I run is in my setting, unimaginatively named the 5 Realms.
Okay.
Because there are 5 countries, and none of them, they have different systems. So some of them are kingdoms, some of them are authoritarian, one's a dictatorship. So realms sounded fantasy as well. So
we like
so everything
Realm's a good word.
Realm's a good word.
It's a good word.
So I called it the 5 realms. This is my 8th campaign set in the setting.
Wow.
And yeah, it's gone through a lot of changes in this time because it's a persistent world. So everything that previous parties do impacts the next campaign and the next campaign.
That's good.
Actually, it's been quite fun because this current campaign is actually set 2 campaigns ago. At the same timeline. So the events that they caused then are now affecting them now. Because that campaign was a lot of big world changes.
All right.
So as, young characters, they're experiencing all of these big changes. Yeah.
So can you give me an example of like what happened in the other campaign that has now affected your current players?
Yeah, well, I have a couple of new players who don't know what's happening, and I have 3 who know exactly what is happening and what is coming. And we're all being pretty good about keeping secrets. But the biggest one is actually from 3 campaigns ago. The finale resulted in the all-god Avar, who's the god of fate and time, being resurrected. Okay. So he was brought back. He's taken back over the Pantheon. He'd been gone for 3,000 years. So it's just been announced to them all basically that he is back, that he was always meant to be here, that he has a plan for everyone, that their lives are now full of meaning and all of that sort of stuff. And they're sort of slowly seeing the effects that that's having as he's bringing sort of more changes to the world and the way things are run. So one of the characters, Valerie, is a tiefling. And she's going through her sort of typical journey of trying to find out, like, why she's a tiefling, trying to connect with, her ancestry and such. And as she's been sort of going through that, she's sort of been piecing together the fact that actually tieflings are going to hell again. Which wasn't, about 3,000 years ago, when Avar died, one of the other gods basically pardoned all tieflings and was like, it's not their fault, leave them alone. Same as everyone else, they will go where they go depending on how they act in life.
Right.
But Avar's returned, so he's undone that.
Gotcha.
Because
so
he really, really doesn't
they
like
thought it was going to be like
devils.
a good thing, him returning, and it's turning out that they're like,
it's slowly sort of like, actually, this isn't so good after all. Our kingdom's just brought back the death penalty because apparently that's in accordance with his will. So, yes.
I just feel like they released him, and then after a while, they're like whispering, like, what was his name again? You said?
Avar.
They're probably just like whispering, like, I think Ava's racist. Did we bring back a racist person? That sounds terrible. Yeah. Oh, no. Well, hopefully they figure it out soon, and they do something about that. That's fun, though. They're
only level 2, so they're not the ones that are going to be dealing with this. But they are going to have to be dealing with the effects of it going on.
Right.
Have made it clear that killing the All God is not the point of this campaign.
Right.
Mostly because, spoilers, it happens in another campaign I've already run.
Right. Yeah, you said that this timeline technically already happened. So right. This was the first campaign when they brought him back, and they, I'm assuming, took care of it. But yeah, spoilers and stuff. That's cool though. That's great. That's great writing. That's great story building. Do you publish your campaigns? Do you write them down or not really?
I don't. I mean, I have a blog where I occasionally post little stories from the perspective of my NPCs of stuff that's going on in the world. I also do my own like character writing when I get to play, which is on there as well. Nice. So that's quite fun. I'm sort of, for my own benefit at the moment, writing up a setting guide. I don't have any plans necessarily to share it anytime soon, but I mean, it would be amazing to be able to do that at some point. So I have my own little wiki-style thing that I'm slowly working on.
That's awesome.
Got all my gods on there.
And do you, I know like you build these maps, do you play virtually or do you play in person? Right now?
It's a mix of the two, usually. At the moment, I'm playing in person. Nice. Obviously, with the pandemic, was online. But usually what I do is that I will run a campaign that's in person for about 3/4 of the year. And then I will run what we call my summer campaign, which is a shorter one, which is a bit looser, a bit wilder, which will be on online. So I get to play with people that don't live around here, and also like people often. I mean, I started running while I was in uni.
Right.
So part of the reason that I do that was because term time we'd play a campaign to completion, and then summer everyone would go home.
Right.
So I'd run something online for everyone. So
that makes perfect sense. That makes a lot of sense, and that's fun.
And even
too.
I mean, I am back in uni now, but yeah, I've just kept it going basically. And then the pandemic threw a spanner in my works, and I ran a campaign for 2 years instead. So
yeah, it, some it threw a wrench in the gears. Others, they tried D&D for the first time and started a podcast like this guy, because that was me. 2 years ago, I went down this deep, dark rabbit hole, and here we are today. But how often do you get to play? When do you get as a character?
Less so at the moment. My flatmate Mika does DM sometimes.
Right.
A couple of months ago, we finished Dragon Heist.
Cool.
So that was the last thing I got to play. It was her first time running a module, my first time playing in a module.
Wait, so in university you started out right away DMing? You didn't even
no,
play?
it was I was playing for the first 2 years. I was only a player.
Oh yeah, you said a barbarian, yeah.
The third year, then I started DMing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, everyone that I've ever played with has done a homebrew world and a homebrew campaign.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was just kind of the culture, I think, at the uni. I don't know whether it's because people have been playing for years and already done a lot of the modules, or if it's just what everyone wanted to do. But yeah, everyone had their own like homebrew setting. I made my own homebrew setting when I started DMing. So yeah, that was my first time playing a module all the way through, I should say. I played a few sessions of Strahd before that campaign fell apart a couple of years ago. But...
Nice. Yeah, I've done one almost full like 98% completion full module before a couple players, and then most of my sessions like were one shots that then my DM was like, I'll just gonna homebrew from this one shot, and just kind of like took off with it. So that's kind of what we do. But so how many games a week do you play then? If you were playing
at its height, I think I probably played in 2, maybe 3, and ran 1. I think that's the most I've ever done. That was when I was in uni. At the moment, I'm DMing 2. So it's my main home game, which is the one I was talking about, the 1 to 21. And I do volunteer work, basically, at the library. So I co-DM with Mika a campaign there.
That's awesome.
So...
Is it for like younger or just anyone who shows up? Or?
Anyone. We've got some kids. We've got some teens. We have their dads.
I think that's
it's
beautiful.
Basically what the group is. We've got a mum now as well.
I love it. I think that's the best part of these games is like how it can just bring people together, and just, that's whenever would you have a mom, a dad, a teenager, and a child sitting around a table playing the same game, and like it's probably just a fun. It's the younger ones.
It's really good fun.
Yeah, and the younger ones learn how to interact with the older ones, and these teenagers like interacting with these younger kids. Like I think that's how we're supposed to communicate and like really. Yeah, learn.
It's usually the dads that cause problems as well. It's always the dads.
It happens.
Like they're the ones murder hoboing, and I'm like, your children are right here.
That's funny. Yeah, I would be
it's like we could kill them.
I would have to play if I was playing with if I had kids and I was playing with them, and I would be like, well, I guess I'm just going to be the first lawful good character I've ever had because I need to teach them right.
Gotta teach them how to play D&D without murder hoboing.
When they murder hobo, they're like, you shouldn't do that, says the shiny knight, and yeah, that's awesome. What was the most recent character you got to play?
The last one I got to play was Miv. So she was a Hexblood technically. So yeah, she was a Fey, and I worked with the DM as well that she was going to be obeying some Fey rules.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Throughout Fey rules.
Oh,
so
okay.
like can't lie, iron hurts, that kind of thing. Promises are binding. So we worked through that because I was like, most of the fun of the Fey is the kind of weirdness of them.
Yeah. And
obviously 5e doesn't really capture that as is. So in my homebrew setting, it's the same. There are certain rules that they have to abide by. And should any player want to play them, they're going to have to abide by those rules too.
No, that's fine. If that's where I feel like a lot of people are like pretty unfamiliar. Like I didn't know a lot of those, that they had like these weird like cultural rules or like binding rules in the Feywild.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense. And that's, I mean, I've seen, other people play, Fey characters, and some of them are usually kind of weird. So I'm wondering if that if they knew that, or they just happen to play them weird. But so you said she was a Hexblade?
No, Hexblood, which is a hag child.
Got it. Yes.
Kind of a child that's been affected by hags. Anyway, they don't have to be strictly speaking their child. Her backstory was that actually she was a Fey. She actually was a Fey princess of a very minor Fey court, because in this setting there's like 1,000 Fey courts, and being a prince or a princess is actually about a dime a dozen. But basically her mother had made a deal with a hag at some point, and had lost Miv to the hag from doing that deal when she was born. And she was raised by a very nice supportive hag and her coven. And, working for the Unseelie court, basically. And, there was some problems on the material plane where Fae were going missing. And she was basically being sent kind of as a spy, actually, because she looks Seelie Court, because she is Seelie Court, to join the Emerald Enclave and keep an eye on things, basically. So, that was her backstory and why she was actually in Waterdeep. She was a lot of fun to play. One of the characters, Aurelius, got into a lot of trouble with Miv, because he was very polite, because he was a noble. And he would constantly be thanking Miv for things. And in Miv's mind, if you thanked her, then you owe her.
Oh.
Because it's Fey rules.
Because of the hag deals kind of thing? Or just, that's just Fey rules. Fey rules. It's
just a Fey rule of you can't be in anyone's debt. Like, it's rude to be in someone's debt.
Making a list I'm racking it up with this guy.
Yeah, basically. I was keeping a running tally of every time they thanked and what for.
That's hilarious.
It's just at one point she defeated a monster that essentially saved his life, and he thanked her. It was cool, you owe me your life now.
Wow.
In fact, session 1, one person owed them their life because spoilers for Dragon Heist, but there's an intellect devourer very early on when you're still level 1. And those things are horrifying because they devour your intellect, and if it hits 0, your character's unplayable.
Yeah, you die. Yep.
At that point, you're not dead, but you're dead.
You're a vegetable, pretty much.
I'd gone for faction agent as my background because of the Enclave, and I rolled very well on how high up I was in the faction. So I already had this brooch that gave me 1 use of Greater Restoration.
Ooh.
So I used that session 1 on on a character that had their intellect completely devoured.
Wow. He probably thanked you a bunch of times, so he was probably like, "Oh my God, thank you."
They really owed me.
Oh, that's hilarious. How did she eventually she'd be like, "Well, you owe me." Like, how did she how did this play out, really, is kind of what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, she was just getting increasingly annoyed at him, basically, and then turned around and was like, "You owe me."
Right.
When he was like, "I don't understand what I've done wrong."
Right. It's like, you haven't paid
she
your
was just
debts.
getting increasingly angry with him. Like, you keep owing me, but you're not giving me anything back.
Right.
What's up with that? That's so rude. And sort of the Faye thing of being like, if someone is rude to you, you can destroy them.
Got it.
And she's like, I'm getting to the point where I'm just going to kill you.
Sometimes I think
you're being terrible to me.
Yeah. I think we need that rule in this
eventually it
world
sort
a
of
bit.
came out, and eventually they realized that she was a Fae, and that's what was going on. And we had a session where Aurelius basically planned just a bunch of things to give to Miv to try and settle his debts, basically.
Bunch of presents and just anything.
Yeah. It was also very fun because session 1 I stole everyone's names without them knowing.
How do you steal names?
It's another Fae thing of being like, if you give your name to a Fae, it's theirs.
Got it.
It's not when I was working things through with the GM, we decided it wasn't going to be none of the like Fae powers and like, bindings were going to be as strong on the material plane. So if someone made a promise to me, they weren't bound to it in the same way. But
Got it.
Yeah, one of the things that I could do is that I could take someone's name and then I can use it. Basically, because they can't lie.
Right?
Yeah. And the very first session, we started in the Awning Portal. And one of the characters was playing a bard called Zinni. And Miv was genuinely a fan of Zinni. And went up and said very nervously, with a piece of paper and a pen in her hand, "Can I have your name?"
Ha! And of course the bard was like, "Whoa!"
And of course the bard was like, "Yes, of course," and signed away their name.
You don't already know it and have it? Yeah, that's God.
Yeah, well, it was an autograph basically. Was what she was going up and asking for.
So did you just like collectively own your whole party after this campaign? You're just like, you're all mine now?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And one of them made the mistake of going to the Feywild with Miv at the very end as well, in the epilogue. And it was just kind of like, Miv can do whatever she wants.
Was the coven like, great, basically. You brought the slave home. Wonderful, perfect. Like, geez.
A little bit. I mean, her coven was very nice and was like, this is your guest, so it's up to Miv what happens to them, etc. And Miv was nice and was like, we are friends. Like, I'm going to tease you mercilessly about all the terrible things that I could do to you, and then be like, yeah, it's fine, you can go home.
Man, I gotta read up on some Fae rules and probably make because this sounds fun. It sounds fun to just be like,
it's
really
a lot
just
of fun.
Like, the interpretation of your ways versus others, just like, okay, cool. Yeah, all right.
It caused a lot of problems. I went for some interesting solutions. As one of them was that Miv cannot enter someone's home uninvited.
That's fun.
Which is a problem when you keep having to break into people's houses.
Yeah.
So Miv would just be like, people would be like, we need to break in, like, we need to go see what's happening, or there'd be like a fight in this big house, like, we need to go in. Miv's like, I can't. You guys can go in.
That's funny.
So at one point, she actually, because she was a druid, strictly speaking, like reflavored as kind of a witch, like hag situation, but she was a druid, so she could talk to animals. So to get around that at one point when like her party was dying inside in a big fight, she was like, okay, fine. And she used to talk with animals to ask the pet of the house if she could come in. Because it was their house.
Right.
And as far as she was concerned, just as much their house as anyone else's. So she then had permission to go in.
That's facts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think strictly speaking, it might have been a horse actually the first time. So
just like went over to the horse on the stable, but can I go inside?
Like, you live here. And it was like, can I here have some food? Can I come in? It's like, yeah,
sorry,
sure.
my friends broke into your house, but they're about to die. Can I come in?
Yeah, can I come in?
Very, very cool. I love that. Oh man, Fae creatures are so fun. I love it. We did have someone pop in the chat. Hello, caffeinated artificer. Welcome to You Had to Be There.
Hi Arthur.
Hi Arthur. Okay, so you all know each other. That's good. Awesome. What about in your games right now? What kind of fun stories you got going on in your games or any other ones that you have? You've been playing for a while, so.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good one from this current. Like this current campaign has been a bit of a wild ride. They're only level 2, but there's a lot of lore stuff sort of going on that they're slowly learning about the world, which has been a lot of fun. Partly the Avar stuff. There's also been a lot of stuff surrounding one of the characters maybe has some sort of demonic connection of some kind that they're slowly starting to learn. So his has been quite a lot of fun of sort of like, originally it was set in this tiny little village that's extremely isolated around this extremely cursed woods. And the village is sort of ish run by a woman known only as the Witch.
Okay.
And in the Curse Woods, there's a lot of undead / maybe demonic stuff going on.
Okay.
So the first time that they ever left the village, they went through the forest and some creepy stuff started happening. I mean, there was like undead stuff, but whatever. But as they went along, they noticed these dolls sort of in the branches, like to start with like really crude dolls just in the branches sort of watching them. It went on a little further. There's some new dolls. They're slightly more realistic looking. Go on a little further. Again, they've got a slightly more realistic looking, and actually they look kind of like us. Until it started being like extremely accurate. Like it looks like they're made of skin kind of thing. And then very slowly as they're walking along, they start getting this like tickling feeling on the back of their neck. Or just like one of them.
Were they
turn around.
Quick question for context. When you say dolls, were they like stuffed dolls or like marionettes?
Like stuffed dolls.
Stuffed dolls, okay.
But yeah, to start with, it was like sort of very crude, like cloth dolls.
Gotcha.
And then at the end, it looked like it was like stitched together skin, basically.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So they'd get this tingle. One of them in the group would get this tingling on the back of their neck, look around, and they saw Taros, his doll, murder them. Just one by one, the party was like seeing that happen, basically. They started messing around with the dolls a bit as well, like trying to find out more about them, trying to get away from them, trying to just ignore them. And eventually there was only Taros dolls left, and they all started killing each other.
So the dolls were killing each other?
Yeah, the dolls were killing each other.
Okay.
In various different ways, but it was always the Taros doll killing everyone else. So kind of unsettling. But they get past it. They tried asking questions and search, and at one point in Abyssal, the word yes was written. But they'd asked about 10 questions at once, and they couldn't work out which one it was responding to. And they were like, we've had enough of this, we're just gonna...
Just
run. Gonna keep going. Beeline. Yeah, then they made camp, and that night, everyone apart from Sobby, who's a plasmoid, so they don't have any like skin or flesh or anything, they're just an ooze.
Wait, there's a player character?
Taros. A player character, yeah.
Wait, how did you... But this is in 5th edition?
Yeah, I mean, that one is an After Arcana.
Oh.
So I allowed this. Some of the others also have some slight edits to their characters. So
that's fine. You can continue with your story. I was like, someone's playing an ooze? That's awesome.
It's very cool.
Okay, so they made it through the... Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I can go through the party. There's Taros, who is the barbarian, who they were like, we think he's an elf, but like his parents are elves, but they've slowly been coming to realize that he is not an elf. He doesn't trance. He doesn't have past life memories. Things like later on they found out that he doesn't breathe. Like, he doesn't need to. Like, he can, but he doesn't need to breathe. And he's also been having weird dreams and sleepwalking where he ate a whole deer. At one point, he just walked into the forest at night and just killed the deer and ate it raw, the whole thing. Bones,
they still don't know what he is?
At the moment, they think that he is an abyssal tiefling. So, tiefling, but with demonic bloodline rather than devil bloodline.
Got it.
So, that's where they're at the moment.
Interesting.
I'm not going to say whether it's true or not.
Yeah, no, because, I mean, when you said he doesn't need to breathe, I thought air genasi, but I don't think an air genasi would eat a whole deer raw, So
there's him. There is Roran, who is a bear shifter. He has his brother, who is an actual bear. Because he's a ranger, so that's his companion. We have Valerie, who is the tiefling, trying to work out her backstory.
Right.
Canuck, who is not a tiefling. They don't know what Canuck is.
A lot of mystery in the party.
She's got horns, which is why to start with people like, oh, a tiefling. But she has said she's not a tiefling and she knows what she is. And hasn't expanded on that.
Changeling?
So they just kind of left it. For now, anyway. Is that everyone? Taurus, Valerie, Roran. Yeah, Sobby is the other one, who's a plasmoid wizard who's trying to work out why he exists because
he's a plasmoid.
No one knows about them.
That's wild. I would just hopefully no one play. When it comes to the trying to figure out what people are, I would just like start throwing rocks at people in the dark because that's how you find out if they have dark vision or not. Like I played one campaign with my friend was playing a changeling, but she said she was an elf and I was a human. I was like, perfect, you're an elf. We're in the dark. Lead the way. And that's how we played. She's like, can't see in the dark.
Yeah,
I'm like, what are you talking about?
You have to be careful when you're pretending to be another species that you can sort of pass as that species.
You got to be real careful.
Like, the other thing with elves is that they can trance. They only need to sleep for 4 hours.
Yeah.
They're perfect
you feeling
on watch.
All right? You slept for like 16 hours. What's going on?
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, great. We've got 2 elves in the party. They're taking care of watch.
Nice.
And then if they're not an elf, that doesn't work so well. Yeah, no, I like playing characters as well that have some sort of secret or maybe aren't what they like,
shrouded in mystery,
pretended to be, etc.
I didn't mean to cut you off though. So you were going and then the tangent, and then Caffeinated Artificer asked if you talked about Bones already. So you finish your story.
I have not talked about Bones already. We'll talk about him in a minute. The camp basically that night after they'd had the scary dolls encounter.
Yeah.
They went to sleep. Sobby and Taros were on watch. They rolled horrifically. I believe they nat wand. And everyone woke up with meat hooks laid on their stomachs. They got out of the woods pretty sharpish after that.
Yeah. I don't like horror movie. I'm not a horror movie person, but I love like haunted, scary D&D campaigns because I'm like, all right, well, at least I'm powerful and I can fight things. Like horror movies, I don't like the helplessness, but like, yeah, that's so fun. I love creepy stuff in D&Ds. It's so fun.
Yeah. There's a few other things while they're in the forest as well. Like there were these bloody peacock feathers that were surrounding Taros at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually they got out of the creepy woods and, they've been having lots of fun adventures trying to find their mentors instead.
There was one time we did, I think it's just a one-shot called The Haunt. A lot of fun. This isn't too much of a spoiler or anything, but we were playing and there was this creepy doll that like we walked in and it was like sitting on the chair and we're like, oh, that's creepy. And then we walked like throughout the house and there it's a very tough like dungeon and my barbarian got like blown up. Like I went through all my short rests within like the first like 4 combat. Like it was wild. And then we walk out and she's like, so you look at the couch and the doll's gone. And I was just like out of character. I was like, no, I forgot about the stupid doll. I was like, not the doll. Where'd that thing go? So yeah, it's
that's made me think of a couple of sections ago. Actually, the party got introduced to a marionette doll named Midnight because they had broken into a secret temple to Sicarius, the god of murderers and assassins, that had been shut down because it's illegal to worship him. So it had been shut down, but the marionette doll's still in there, and she's Midnight, and she's very creepy. She's a old high priestess of Sicarius, and she talks kind of like this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, them coming across her and freaking out, especially because she's been in a couple of campaigns, so it's always nice for, like, the players who've been playing for a while to, get to see the sort of reoccurring, like, characters and, like, that the world has changed in certain ways, but it's the same in others. So that was very fun. And for the new players, it was very fun and unsettling as well to have to deal with her for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's fun to, like, take newer players on a more... Because, like, you go in playing D&D when you first start, it's mostly just, like, traveling and goblins and stuff and things like that. But I when I, like, first played one that was, like, like a Halloween themed or like haunted and mystery, like that's when it gets like really starts getting interesting. And I don't run a lot of games, but like I run the occasional games for friends, and I love running games for people who haven't played because when I first started playing, I was like, everyone needs to play this at least once. So it's fun to do those.
Playing with new players is always great. I mean, they're not new to playing tabletop role-playing games, but they are new to playing in my setting.
Right, yeah.
And I think one of them is quite new to 5e, or at least hadn't played in a while.
Yeah.
But, I mean, with my volunteer work as well, we get a lot of brand new players, and it's always so much fun for them to have, like, that moment in the first session. We had a new player recently, came in about halfway through. We don't have very long either, so we'd managed to make them a character, and they just sort of sat down and basically actually joined the game for the final fight. And they were playing a wizard, and they cast Scorching Ray, and they got a nat 20 on 2 of the rolls.
Oh, nice.
So they ended up doing like 10d6.
Wow.
Against something that was vulnerable to fire. And they just came in and nuked it, basically.
You just roasted it? That's hilarious.
So, and you just see like the look in like their eye, the whole like reaction from the table about this like happening, and they're like, you can stay in the party.
That
awesome. Was incredible. You just did more damage than Fireball, and we're level 3.
Those beginner luck rolls sometimes, you know, you're just like, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure they were just like, this is the best game ever. Yeah. It's also like when you get to roll that many dice, and you're like...
Yeah, and everyone around the table was donating dice.
Yeah,
because it was like the first time they didn't even come with dice. So everyone around the table was donating all of their D6s to get them to do a really big roll. It was a great moment. It was really fun.
I love doing builds like when you crit, like the number of dice means so much. Like I just love it when you stack and you're like, I think there's like 4d6 and 2d8 plus the 2d4. Like, yeah, it's so fun. It's awesome. I want to make sure you get plenty of time to plug your things, but I would like if you have like one more story or 1 or 2 more stories that you want to share. Ooh. Some of your favorite moments, either DMing or playing. Oh wait, Bones. Let's talk about Bones.
Bones. Yeah, well, this is actually from the campaign that I ran last year during the pandemic.
Sure.
One of my characters, it was Mika actually, played Bones of Steel. And the whole campaign was set in this circus. They all worked together in the circus, and it also did crime.
Okay.
It was meant to be a summer campaign. It's a bit, the concept was you are a circus, you do crimes, the campaign is to go and kill the king.
Got it.
So that's what it was meant to be. That is not what happened.
No?
But yeah, Bones was one of the characters. They were a white tiger tabaxi, and they were the ringmaster when the owner of the circus wasn't around, which was most of the time. Because he would just swan off constantly, basically, and then come back occasionally with a new person to join the circus.
Mm-hmm.
Very unreliable, but when he did turn up, he would do ridiculously well of like rolling constantly above like 20s, maybe even like 30 for performance for the shows. So he was fun. But yeah, so Bones was sort of the leader-ish of the circus when he wasn't there. At least for the circus part. Venture, a character of mine, was actually running the business because Lufane, the owner, could not be trusted to run the business. But yeah, so Bones, very lovable, and he didn't know, and neither did the party, that he was actually a Warforged. And
wait, the Tabaxi?
Yeah, the Tabaxi was actually a Warforged. As far as he was concerned, he was a Tabaxi. He looked like a Tabaxi. He had memories of an entire life of being a Tabaxi. But actually, he was a sleeper agent Warforged that had made to look incredibly realistically like a Tabaxi.
Did they change his name to Gears after that? No, sorry.
No. But yeah, so eventually he found out that, and, he just freaked out. Complete, breakdown, existential crisis, everything he thought he knew about himself, it's gone. Yeah, there was this harrowing scene where he peeled off his skin.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, when did that happen?
Yeah, it was a harrowing scene. Like, I had to multiple times sort of stop and like check everyone, like, safety wise, because it was intense. But everyone was okay. But yeah, no, he peeled off all his skin.
Yeah, I picture it being more not like with, obviously there's no blood. There's no blood.
Yeah, there's
so,
no blood
it's just
because he didn't really have any.
It's like one of those weird like animatronic dolls, if you ever see, that had like the rubber faces.
It was
and
yeah, exactly. Actually, since Arthur's here, one of the worst things I've ever done as a DM, which is related to Bones. So basically, Mika had a chat with me, and basically, she just was like, Bones' story is done. Like, he's gone through the whole thing of finding out that he's a warforged. He's sort of come to terms with that. He managed to got reincarnated as a furbolg, so he had his own body that he felt was more his own, and not just sort of created or fabricated. And yeah, basically Mika was like, I kind of want to stop playing him, but I want him to have like an ending. I want it to be as sort of dramatic as possible. Will you kill him off? And I was like, yeah. So worked together to do the worst thing I've ever done to anyone in a campaign, which was that basically when he'd got reincarnated, part of himself had been stripped away and separated from him, which was like the core like robot part. His soul had been taken out, which had sort of developed and put in a new body. But a tiny sliver of his soul and the robot part had been left behind. And that part came back for vengeance. For what he had done to him, basically. Because he'd, like, taken away all of his, like, love for his friend, like, everything, like, he knew, like, he was suffering badly, basically. And he'd managed to get back onto the material plane and back to where they were. They'd actually ended up on a detour of hopping around the realms for a few sessions. They went in a travelling tavern. It happens sometimes.
Right.
But they'd just gotten back, and they had gotten back in time for the Day of Love, which is the holy day of the goddess of like love and fire. And Bones and Shell had been crushing on each other for a long time. And they came back to find that supposedly the owner, Lufane, had gotten them tickets together to go to like a dinner date, basically, at this really posh restaurant. It was all like probably all paid for. Who knows? It's Lufane. Right. And they were like, oh, I guess we'll like go together. Apparently it's for us. So they sat down for this beautiful romantic date at this beautiful restaurant. Started having food. Started like finally talking to each other about their feelings for each other. And then the crossbow bolt hit him.
Right.
He started choking like on his like food because he's a furbolg at this point, so he's no longer poison resistant. He gets hit by the crossbow bolt and just dies, basically. There's that, and like I think they also like shot him with like another spell on top, basically, that they quick and spelled because he was a sorcerer something multiclass.
Got it.
Rogue, that was it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he was an assassin, rogue, sorcerer, multiclass in this build. So they'd already poisoned the food. They shot him with assassinate, and then they fired off as a bonus action. I think it was Scorching Ray.
Jeez.
And he just died.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, it was technically a balanced encounter, but obviously I'd massively stacked everything in the favor of Bones dying because that's what the player had asked for. And Shell was just left with seeing the person they just were like confessing their love to.
Was that a player also?
Player.
Did they know?
Arthur.
Did they know that this was? Oh, that was
They
Arthur.
did not know this was going to happen.
Gotcha. Yeah.
People cried. It was a really intense moment.
I mean, that's good that it all went out without a hitch, because like sometimes, like I wanted to kind of step back from my character. I didn't want them killed off, but we were saying like, all right, they're going to get taken. And we didn't tell the party that I was going to have my character get taken. And I worked it out with my DM, and they saved my character from getting taken into a portal to like, the demon world. But it almost resulted in getting 2 of them killed. Like I had to bring in my backup character to save them. And then they saved my other character. So then I had my backup character just like, all right, well, I'm just going to go. And then because I was like, I have 2 characters now. This wasn't the plan. But I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean,
sad it happened. Glad it went off without a hitch.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was made deliberately. So it was like, most likely they will die here. Even if it's not from like the first round of combat,
Yeah.
They had very high initiative. It would probably have happened in the second. But, they could have missed. They could have succeeded on their con save and not had the poison. They could have, etc. There were variables, and we talked about it. And we were like, we didn't want it to be a sure thing, because it kind of felt like cheating for me to just be like, you're dead.
Yeah, that's what I was well, once you explained it all, I was like, oh, I killed him in one round? That sounds like, it almost sounded fixed. But then when you explained that they poisoned the food, and he was an assassin, rogue assassin, which is devastating.
Yeah, the other thing was they were sharing food, but Shell is a U1T, so it was poison immune. And the assassin knew this, so they were both eating the same food, but only Bones was affected. And it was working off of Bones' build as well, specifically.
Right.
He was technically a swashbuckler, but his programming, underneath it all, was essentially an assassin.
Gotcha.
So that's where that came from, and he was a multi-class into sorcerer. So
that makes sense. Charisma.
Yeah.
I have my bard is, I had my College of Swords bard, and I just multi-classed into rogue, and I think swashbuckler would be the way to go, because that high charisma
swashbuckler
with that
is very good.
Yeah. Woo, buddy, I am
so it was
excited.
the exact same level as them, exact same stats as them, because it was
Yeah.
another part of himself. The only thing was a switch to assassin rather than swashbuckler,
Right.
because that was more down to their programming than their current personality.
That makes sense.
But, the party did bring Bones back. They went on a quest to resurrect him.
Oh.
And then when he was brought back, he decided to stick more with the circus role stuff from there on and not go off on the questing stuff. But, in the end, Bones and Shell lived happily ever after.
Oh, that's good. Did they take care of the robot version of Bones?
No, Shell ran after the assassin.
Got it.
After, they realized Bones was dead, and they bolted after the assassin. They managed to catch up, and they saw that it was the robot part of him. Very sort of broken, struggling to sort of get across, what was going on. But they didn't want to hurt Shell.
Right.
They still cared about Shell, because there was a tiny part of their soul still in there.
Right.
A corrupted part, but it was still there. Didn't want to hurt Shell, didn't want to hurt their friends. And Shell let them go. So they didn't see him again after that, I don't think.
Okay, that's good.
But
I would, if I was Bones, I'd be a little ticked off.
I'm not sure if Bones ever found out who killed him.
Oh, that's a good point.
I forget whether Shell ever told everyone.
Do you think yourself?
There was a lot going on in that campaign.
Heard of suicide. This is a little over the top and weird.
It spiraled.
Shell didn't tell anyone. That's what Arthur said. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I could sit here and talk all morning, but I do have some things, and I want to get you out of here. So, Emma, tell everyone where they can find you and things.
You can find me on Twitter. It's Emma_Collis. To follow me, I make maps and tweet DM tips and stories and stuff occasionally, like some of the ones I've been talking about today. I'm also a cast member of Roll Plenty. You can find us on Twitter at Roll Plenty Pod. The first 4 episodes of the Capebook Cassettes are out. We are on a hiatus at the moment, as our editor is feeling better and working through our backlog. You can find us there as well. I also have a Ko-fi, which is the same as my Twitter handle, for my maps. I think that's everything.
Yeah, no problem. I'll rattle it all off.
Not used to plugging myself.
Yeah, keep plugging yourself. And on Twitter and everything. This was awesome. I'm going to do a few of my things and we'll get out of here. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. I love doing it. Thanks again. If it's your first time joining us, like Arthur, subscribe here on Twitch. We go live pretty much at my convenience / my guest convenience. Episodes on YouTube and audio versions drop every other Wednesday. Follow me on Twitter. T. Comedy on Twitter. It's where I tweet out when the shows goes. Stand up, I kind of do more. Follow me on Instagram at Tom DeSillis Comedy for those. Keep me, follow me there if you want to see me do stand up comedy. My intro, the music for my intro was created by my friend Michael James McGarry. You can follow him at It's MJ Made on Instagram and SoundCloud. And my awesome logo was created by my good friend Nicole Summers from the Reliably Chaotic Podcast. And yeah, if you want to be a guest on the show, either hit me up on Twitter, DM me, or you can email me at youhadtobetherepodcast@gmail.com. And that'll wrap it up. Thanks again, anyone listening. This has been You Had to Be There with Emma Collis. Bye, everyone.
Bye.